Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Official, Unofficial cast. This is still week 6, going into our 5th and penultimate game? No, this is our 6th. Oh god, counting's hard, and it's like I've done that. And it's like I've done counting for a living at one point. Regardless, doesn't matter. I'm Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by Mosswell on the internet, still joined by the incredible Hapgood brothers who do all the talky, chatty, make sure it gets dunny sort of stuff with the leaguey playing pros.
Just making me
Take this away from me, please. God.
Blows my mind. Just like how unfortunate it was for Axis to come up against Sengoku and DFM in their last couple of weeks of play. They've still got DFM to go. Just lost to Sengoku. So they're kind of ruining their strength of schedule. But maybe they can take a game off Burning Core and make things very interesting going into the final week of regular season.
Yeah, this is a matchup that we haven't seen since week 1, where we saw a very different Burning Core and a very different Axis playing on the stage. What are your thoughts going into this?
Well, it's very much a change in fortunes for both teams. Burning Core started the year pretty strong. You know, they came up with some good stuff. Ray Farkey looked great in the top lane. I think he won my week 1 top laner of the week. You know, looking fantastic as a team in a lot of ways. Axis, on the other hand, were looking pretty poor. And, how the tables have turned. Axis now look seriously contenders for playoffs. Burning Core are on the back of, I think, a 3-loss streak, something like that. And suddenly this match, which should have been a sure win for Burning Core, is anything but. And if anything, I almost want to give a bit of favour over to the side of Axis in this matchup currently.
I'd agree. I think Axis played well last game, even against Sengoku, which they ended up losing.
Yep.
I think that I like their aggressive mentality. I think sometimes their setup can be lacking a little bit. But they do know when they need to make a play. They're saying, This game is going away from us. We've got to go now. Even if it doesn't work out, if we wait another 5 minutes, our chance of winning is going to just keep getting choked out. So I appreciate that they keep an eye on the game state and think, now is the time to fight, now isn't. And their players are individually playing pretty well. We saw some close fights with Sengoku there. We saw some great games coming out of them before that game as well. So this is a must-win game for them, if I'm being honest. I think if they don't win this one, I think they can kiss playoffs goodbye. So come out swinging, take it to him.
Yes, and I think if we want to pay attention to a particular spot on this map, I think it's going to be that top lane jungle duo. That's going to be Unyan and Hoglet for the side of Axis, and Ray Farkey and Once. We have talked countless times on our podcast plug, that Ray...
First one?
10, I think so, yes. It's taken us longer than normal. We're being a bit reserved for once. Ray Farkey has been Burning Core's carry, and the team really does slightly revolve around how his play is going, and I'm of the opinion that's where a lot of this game is going to be decided between Burning Core and Axis.
I agree. And Once has had some really good games too.
His early games have been pretty phenomenal, but he's also been a serious curse for Burning Core too, where he has stomped people early, like unbelievable. I don't think we've seen any other jungler in the league run over early games quite as hard as he has.
Hoglet had that one game on Olaf, but that's literally it.
But that's the consistency. We've had Blank go 4-0 one time on the list. There are people who've done good early games, don't get me wrong, but Once has done it time and time again. But what he's also done time and time again is kind of throw that lead away a little bit, going so aggressively for these mid-game fights, kind of over nothing, without setting up proper vision control.
Contracted Sengoku disease.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where you wanted to go with that. Fine. All right.
The host is throwing shade.
Sengoku have recovered from that. They no longer throw in the mid game, but Once is still inpatient in our intensive care right now.
Yeah.
Maybe he was patient 0. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? We'll have to look at that because they fixed themselves. Sengoku got well by week 3. At the end of week 3, beginning of week 4, they felt better. But Once is still in there. But as it is a blast from the past, I'm going to count us in and let's get into this pick and ban phase so no more questionable jokes are kept made. At least not by me. And then I don't have to feel bad about it. So in 3, 2, 1, let's go over. Good luck to the teams.
Well, we made it in. We've survived. We haven't contracted Sengoku disease.
We've made it to the quarantine.
We made it through the quarantine. And Axis banning away Ornn, Burning Core banning away Set. Ray Farkey doesn't want to deal with that. Do we get a Darius first pick, Alex?
There's always a chance, but it's Axes who have the first pick, so it'd be very unlikely. Speaking of Axes, they're on the blue side this game.
They are indeed.
It's Ernyan in the top lane, Hoglet in the jungle, Gallardo in the mid lane, Hyde as AD carry, and Corporal as his support.
And Burning Core on the red side this time around with Rayfaki in the top lane. It's Once in the jungle, Rocky in the mid lane, and Yuhi and Proud will be running the ship in the bot lane.
Will be indeed. It's the Elise taken off as the last ban from Axes alongside the Ornn and the Aphelios, and as you were saying, it's the set and the Rumble taken away from Burning Core. Their perspective anyway. So a lot of first pickable champions are gone. I think whoops. I think Senna and Yuumi are the two real priority picks which are left open as a first pick. Olaf's banned, maybe just to say, hey, it's the Olaf we're worried about, not the Yuumi. So Axes have some choices available.
Gallardo looking towards his LeBlanc, and he's so good on this champion. He's funny. Even in the last game on the Asphalt, we saw some nice stuff from him on that. Desperately trying to 3v5 around a mid-game fight around Drakes. So I've got a lot of faith in this particular mid laner to pull some stuff on these playmaking champions.
And also, Rocky is one of... he uses LeBlanc as a bit of a crutch as well. He does really like that champion, looks very good on it, but he doesn't really reach that level on other champions is the other takeaway from that. Interesting from Burning Core, it's a very early lock-in of Varus.
And we know this is a flex pick in the LJL.
Well, it is for Rascal Jester.
Jester's Ninja did pick up the Varus mid lane, but that will not be a threat in this time around because straight after I call Varus as a potential flex, Zoe is locked in. That's not to say we couldn't have a double poke with Varus building the lethality to join the Zoe still there.
It'd be a little bit off meta, but it's still option there. I'm not calling it off the table just yet. Axe is going to go back to their last round one picks. However, they lock in the Lee Sin for Hoglet. As we've said,
from Once as well, which is
it's
big.
away from Once. He really loves that champion. Has been playing very well on it. It is a takeaway, much as like the LeBlanc is as well. I think Axes have had two very high value picks in that regard. Hovering over their AD carry as well, I think that's a good idea because otherwise there's going to be a lot of bans going towards it. It is locked in, not going towards the center, but the Misfortune instead.
Yeah, and that's just a very strong AD carry at the minute. You've got a lot of options of what to pair it with. People just like that champion quite a lot for good reason right now.
So, what do you think the Axis should pair it up then? That Misfortune, obviously, the Leona's available.
Leona, we haven't seen as much Leona focus over the last few weeks.
Much.
Why has that been, out of interest?
I think she dies too easily if she jumps into the front line and kind of doesn't have flash available. It's just a bit easy to kill her off in team fights if she doesn't have the correct setup.
Well, Once isn't afraid of that because he's gone for a Jarvan, and all Jarvan does is team fights is go diving in.
Yes, he
Flag
does.
and Drag a Cataclysm available. It's been to Once's boon and bane alike. He definitely had an interesting moment around Raptor Pits on the last time I saw him on this champion.
Oh yeah, that one player versus Rascal Jester. Well, speaking of Rascal Jester, in that same week we had a game between Axes and V3 where Ernyan had a not necessarily the best KDA on the Camille, but did end up having a backdoor victory on that champion. It has been taken away from Ernyan. Tom Kench taken away from Burning Core. That's one of the supports we love to see paired up with the Varus. It's a long-time staple in that bot lane.
Yeah, and the Kennen now banned as well. Clearly trying to focus against Ernyan's champion pool, and also relatively good duelists and or sort of
1v1ers.
1v1ers-ish, yeah. I'm aware that Kennen very much is a team fighter, but does have some other outplay options. They're looking up for a last pick for Rayfaki, nearly surely.
Think I agree with you there, but
No.
it's not actually. It's going to be the Aatrox with the cleanse and the ghost. That's what we like to see.
Wow, Yuhi, nice setup, buddy.
You love to see it. So it's going to be a last pick support for Burning Core. That's actually something which
Could be Jarvan support, yeah.
I mean, that'd be
Jarvan support. You'd be alright with that.
So, bot lane is often determined by support counter pick. I think the support matchup is often more important than the AD matchup in terms of how the 2v2 goes. And speaking of that, it's the strong engaged tank support in Nautilus locked in for Corporal.
Yeah, and that's a pretty powerful 2v2 they were thinking of there. Thinking potentially about a Jace, which would be a strong champion. Is it going to be locked in? It is locked in. That's a big deal. Jace for Ernyan. That is throwing the gauntlet down versus Rayfaki.
It is absolutely the gauntlet because Aatrox can win that lane versus Jace as well if he takes enough good early trades with the Darkin Blades. This is probably one of the most tumultuous top lane matchups that we've seen the entire split from the LJL, but we'll see if the players are willing to really start brawling. Speaking about brawling, we got the Braum in the bot lane. He likes to get up close and personal, but also protect his AD carry from the same thing from the other team.
And of course, with the Varus, he likes that protection because he doesn't have a lot of mobility himself. And if he gets his attack speed, he stacks up Braum passive disgustingly fast.
It does indeed. Also, speaking about attack speed, the Jarvan going to be there for dropping the standard to give the Varus a little bit more attack speed of his own right. So if Burning Core get to kite back around this Varus with the Glacial Fissure, with the Chains of Corruption, and with the bubbles flying left, right, and center, Burning Core might have themselves a pretty good kite comp. On the other side, we got some range, we got some dive in from the Nautilus and the Lee Sin and the LeBlanc. But they also have some decent scaling from the Misfortune as well.
Yeah, they do. And I will now be focusing my attention very heavily towards this top side. There is all the volatility one could ever ask for up there. And if this Jace gets behind, we've seen what Jace's behind look like in the current meta. We saw what they looked like last time he was in meta when he got behind. And the only person I ever saw even play it from behind relatively well was Impact. That's because Team Liquid used to play the map really well.
I mean, there was also Nuguri when he had those.
Oh, yeah, but he was never necessarily behind in farm, right? He was just...
He would just say, ah, yes, my big brain says this is exactly where I want them to be, and still kind of wins. But then there is no Kleptomancy available for the Jace on the current patch. Was removed in the preseason, probably going towards something like either the Airy or the Conqueror. Maybe Jace stacks that up pretty quickly himself. It's also all right into the Aatrox. Rayfarky has a couple of choices in runes as well. Often the Aatrox goes towards the Conqueror himself. But we saw an Electrocute last game, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah,
out of the top lane from Sengoku Appleman.
Yeah, and Axe is actually really indexing in towards an early game comp here. And this is the game of the week for the LJL official stream. We, I think, had our game of the week yesterday. So we had different opinions to the official one. But alas, our slightly intense Japanese advertising man is on screen again. Look at him. Look at his intensity.
Look at that.
Don't you wish you could scream at a TV screen that loud?
Yeah.
Game on, my friend. Game on.
It's so loud that we had to turn the volume off.
Indeed.
That's it. We actually don't care about the Japanese casters. It's only advertising.
Yeah, he terrifies me. I go to sleep, and that's the nightmare that haunts me. Is this man trying to force me to buy vitamin supplements?
Buy vitamin D.
That's the one. And
it's like the ghost of vitamins past.
Yeah, vitamins that one should have eaten.
Something like that, yeah.
Do they come in like alphabetical order? You get vitamin A one night, then vitamin B the next, and sort of go through the ghosts.
Dude, this is your nightmare. You tell me.
No. It's what I'm assuming it is at this point. Maybe they come in non-alphabetical order just to frustrate me even more.
That could be the case. Speaking about frustrating, it's Zoe on screen. What a frustrating champion she is.
That was your segue? You just decided to go rail on Zoe some more?
Damn right it is. I have to live every day knowing that her champion, that champion is better than my main champion at everything she does. I'm an Ari one-trick myself. Rocky picking up the Ignite in this mid lane, not going for the cleanse or the heal or anything on the more defensive end of the summoner spectrum, whereas Gadiaru has gone for the cleanse. Very important versus the Chains of Corruption later into the game, and the bubble as well. So doing double time against those two big abilities from Burning Core.
Yeah, I need to know.
Yes.
Which one do you find more frustrating, Zoe or Bard?
Can I just have a special place in hell for both of them?
No, you don't. You've got to answer this question.
What about Zabard? It's like Zabard. It's like
Bardy, Bardowy.
Yeah,
Bowie.
Bowie.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
okay.
really bad because of course poor old David Bowie, the horrific Runeterran.
Oh, he is the star child.
He is, yeah. Ziggy Bowie, the horrific crossover we never wanted between Bard and Zoe.
I did need that.
Throws paddle star empowered meeps at you from across the
that sounds. Maybe it could be like definitely. Maybe definitely not Bowie. That could be like
Axis with a huge Twitter vote, by the way.
Well, they came up with a pretty large vote against Sengoku in the last game as well.
Not to interrupt your horrible
No, honestly, I feel like it had come to its natural conclusion there. We'd done the good meme there. We've made this a Bard free zone once more. Fortunately, not a Zoe free zone. But you know, it is pretty fun to watch in competitive, seeing a lot of those crazy one shots. Pyrian had a good game on that last outing in the very first game. We covered it today. See if Rocky can match that kind of standard over here on Burning Core.
Yeah, and Uinyan, from being someone we couldn't necessarily trust in an aggressive lane, is someone I kind of now feel like could probably do okay on this Jace if he gets the right options.
He's kind of had his resurgence a couple of weeks. At the start of the split, I was very down on his performance. I'm happy to be proved wrong, though, and see a turnaround a couple of games. He's had some back and forth kind of games, particularly in the top lane. He's had some 1v1s, had some good team fights, and I mean, we saw a crazy, like, 7-kill Aatrox game out of him as well. Corporal just popping the sweeper there and finding that ward in the tri-brush. Things relatively quiet in the early game so far, though.
Jace going hunting for this Jarvan, a little nervous about where that champion may be, because he's actually on these wolf pits, so right to be nervous of where Hoglet, or sorry, rather, once could be, but doesn't spot him and hasn't put down, well, he's not quite got a vision totem available, so could get ganked here a little bit. They think there's a ward down, but they don't know about it. Uinyan could be in trouble. He's about to think about going warding, but that Infernal Chain just missed.
It hit the minion. Very Falky misses this Darkened Blade, misses the Infernal Chains, and that's the gank pressure gone. If that killer come through, would have set the tone for the early game of trying to bail out the Jace from the pit, which he would have been put, but he does survive the first gank of the game from once.
And that slow would have been huge. Rocky, though, has got himself somehow, some way, an advantage in experience in this mid lane, despite being down at like 5 or 6 years.
Well, it might have been a jungler walking through mid lane. Those damn leeching junglers.
It was Hoglet who came through and leached.
That'll probably be it then. Just to come off of level 5 was getting. Does manage to take over to that as we're speaking. Hoglet looking for an angle, going to jump for the chain
and now Rocky's in trouble. Forces the flash. He'll take that trade.
And that's why we sometimes see cleanse from Zoe into the LeBlanc matchup. The chains are such a consistently threatening gank setup tool from the LeBlanc.
They are, and Hoglet's found his way into Once's jungle for once. Hasn't found the early game stomp that he is kind of notorious for. But he's on this Jarvan, is farming well. Has found at least a decent invade, stolen away some,
I think, his early pathing's
already.
Been good. His early pathing's been pretty good, I think. I think you're right to point that out. He is up probably about 1.5 camps onto Hoglet there. He does find him.
So does Hoglet, though. Didn't walk past
Who finds who?
But that's once picking up a very swift control ward. 75 gold gone straight away.
He's got 2 in his inventory too, so he's playing for the early vision control, which is nice to see as well, because a lot of these laners do like to have the good positioning.
Incoming axe
aggressed on.
Yeah, indeed, that's a good to the skies. Hoglet flashes forward, first blood, well played from the top laner and jungle of Uinyan and Hoglet.
Can I just say that was really well played by Hoglet as well. He held the Sonic Wave for so long, didn't even cast it, I don't think. Flashed forward for the extra autos in the E as well, meaning that Rayfarki, even though he might have been waiting for the Sonic Wave, there was nothing to flash out the way of.
This time, though, Rayfarki is here,
2v2.
and so is Once. It's a 2v2. Uinyan turning into cannon form to get the speed of going back in with the 2 guys.
Some damage!
No, Once gets the kill onto Lee Sin, and Uinyan's now in trouble. Hits him back with the hammer, but he's in trouble, desperately trying to get away. Turn this around. No, they went in. No. They thought they had that, and actually it's just a double to Once. I was saying the early game stomp hadn't started by Once, and suddenly here he is. It's 6.5 minutes in, and he has 2 kills to his name.
A little bit of hubris there from Axes. Get hit by the double Darkened Blade, knock up the sweet spot from Rayfarki. Turns around that gank there. Well, the secondary gank, I guess, goes 0, 1, and 2 now on the Aatrox. I'm feeling a little bit better for himself.
Oh, good stop for Once, though. Uinyan here just desperate to cause as much chaos as he can. Freezing now the wave, forcing Aatrox into a difficult position.
Well, Aatrox has no TP as well, so he has to recall and then get frozen upon here, so he doesn't get to break that. Might lose himself a full wave of CS, as Hoglet does go down towards the bot side as well. So it's a frozen wave on the top side, not too many plays to be made around there, and a dragon still going the way the Axis on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, so how are you feeling about the freeze option for Jace? Because normally when we talk about Jace, we've had this conversation before. Because normally we talk about him being a 2-tower plate champion, where you want to be pressing at that tower, looking for those plates, but you're kind of okay with the freeze in this situation.
If you ask me next patch, I'd say, yeah, go for the plates, because plates go from 120 gold to 160 gold once more. It means that you do get a lot of gold when you start chunking away at those towers. At this specific moment in time, though, there's no TP on the Aatrox, like I was saying. There's Dragon being taken away on the bot side. It's kind of a very positive play there. Gadiadu jumping in.
Though. He is in so much trouble. No flash, and that's a swift second kill now for Hoglet.
Gadiadu actually uses the cleanse there, a little bit afraid of the ignite damage alongside the redemption, which though just picks up because she's Zoe.
Yeah, it could have been a bit scary. I kind of agree. I think the Triumph healing, they're probably keeping Gary Arrow just about okay. Actually, as you're saying,
Gary Arrow doesn't take... Well, you don't take
Triumph.
on
I
it on
tend
Zoe.
to assume Assassin do and just realize, actually, does
No,
LeBlanc take it and went against
honestly,
it?
not many of them do nowadays.
Really?
Not many. Honestly, the way you get Triumph is you get them on your precision primary guys.
Yes.
So, and even then, a lot then, so that's your AD carries a lot of the time, and a lot of the time they take overheal instead. And then you get, you know who does take it? The energy champions.
Yes.
Sometimes. Oh no, that's not even true because they take presence of mind.
Okay.
So Akali doesn't even take that as well. So yeah, you normally see from LeBlanc, you see the sorcery secondary runes, you see Transcendence and Mana Flow
That
band.
makes a lot of sense.
Because your CDR on that champion is very important. You aren't really gated by your ratios or your base damage. You are gated by your cooldowns, which means that LeBlanc loves to dash in and dash out very quickly.
How many mimics can you get off in a team fight? Often determines them, right? And this is a pretty strong point for this LeBlanc, who is 10 CS up, got an assist to her name, feeling pretty confident. Jace in the top lane, not doing too badly for himself, though. Despite
Once and Hogla run into each other.
They do. Hogla
Bubble?
has got... Yeah, is going to escape for now, avoids all the paddle stars. Not Meep empowered, thank all that is holy. But, you know, we saw this Jace get off to a very good early start and then get it turned around very swiftly. So Aatrox not feeling so bad in this lane because he has some Ninja Tabi early alongside the Kindle Gem just for more HP as well.
Those early assists getting to that Tabi early is really big. Because Tabi is a big turning around matchup for Bruises versus Jason, a lot of different matchups. Rocky just picking up a chilling smite somehow as well, as is Zoe. Once just getting it out from the combo of LeBlanc though, not before some of his HP is taken away from him.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting Once to hang around at that bush and look for a gank if Gary Arrow had gone a bit more aggressively.
Well, if he jumps in, he has the distortion pop back and then also has the mimic distortion as well. So it's, as much as LeBlanc is a slippery champion, if she uses her cooldowns incorrectly, you can be punished for that kind of play. Gadiaru, though, not died in this game so far, doing pretty well in this mid lane matchup. And yeah, and missing the shock blast, but also dodging out on all three of the Darkin Blades himself. Has himself the Phase Rush actually on the Jace. I completely forgot that was a rune. That is the common rune of choice for the Jace. I should have mentioned that in Champions League, but my brain kind of derped. It's Herald summoned by a Hogwarts on the top side.
Well, we called him a two-plate champion. He's already got the one. And the freeze is broken. The Rift Herald is here. They're looking for first tower and a very happy Jace.
Yeah, you can open a crockery shop with that many plates that he's got there. It's gone down to one plate remaining in the top lane. A lot of gold going the way of Axes there, leading to only a 500 gold lead. I was about to say a 500k. That would have been much more than I would have bargained for. But it's still advantage to Axes very slightly in the early game.
Well, yeah, just got to hope that Alice is not around. You don't want that bull in poor old Jace's China shop. Ray Farkey and Uinyan fighting over a wall, but Once is just out of vision now. With that cleared out, Once is still on vision because there's a pink ward in the way. So they're going to try and get onto him, and they've got... He hasn't quite got flash. Not quite yet.
Oh, that's a good combo, though!
So well played! You do get travel with, of course, the two. This guy's gets himself over the walls. Once has got to be kicking himself.
That's actually some next level of problem solving this. It's, no flash, no problem, as we see Corporal using his flash to trade with Yuhi on the Varus there. That was such a cool mechanical play. Uses the knockback to get Jarvan out of the Cataclysm, then to disguise over the wall there, and then puts down the acceleration gate to make a speedy getaway. Fantastically well played from him.
So nice.
That is stylish as heck.
That's why when Jace is in meta, I love seeing that kind of play. He does have those moments where you can just sort of see those edge of your seat moments, which can go either way. And this time, Uinyan comes out trumps.
Yeah, have you seen our Lord and Savior Eunyan? He needs no saving himself. He doesn't even have to burn anything particularly for that player there, whereas Once burns a fair amount of time, and the Cataclysm on the top side, as well as the World Ender from Ray Farkey there as well.
And Uinyan is down in mana, but rich in hope as he's going to pick up first turret for himself up here, with Ray Farkey forced back by the obscene poke that Jace can push out.
He was also worried about a dive there as well, because Hogla was off the map. Didn't see him anywhere on the map, even though they do have some good vision into the top side, so he probably was aware that he was relatively safe. I mean, Rocky just picks up an Ignite and slaps that onto Gadiaru there for the fun little trade from Zoe.
And that trade is in time for an Infernal Drake that spawned, and the Burning Court are around to contest. It's about 1,000 odd gold lead for Axis. But this Infernal Drake would be huge.
TPing
Yeah,
in.
he is TPing in behind. They're looking to contest. Oh, he gets it! So good! And that was a big J shock blast.
Not
The
the
heal
salt.
now has to be burned. And now once has gone in. He's gone
Oh,
golden. It's
paddle
a
star.
big paddle star, though, in return. Ray Farkey has got his world ender. And that door is going down in time for Hyde to kind of not do a lot with that bullet time.
Okay, so overall trade is kill for Infernal Dragon. I think I give that over to Axes there, as it's not like Burning Core can push down into the mid lane here either. It gets Axes up to their second dragon, and this time they will have 2 dragons on the Mountain Rift once more. It harks back to the last game they played versus Sengoku. They're in the driver's seat in this game so far, though.
This is with Hoglet, by the way, a level down when he gets this smite.
42 HP. Once just missing out on the smite fight there. Corporal puts out the ult. I guess this Aftershock activated, but the Aftershock doesn't really help when Rocky has the Zoe with the long-range paddle star. As you said, the door went down to block out a lot of the bullet time damage from Hyde. Still good zoning ultimate, though, from the Misfortune. Did force Burning Core to back off from the second half of that fight.
Yeah, but we've also got to point out that Uinyan did burn his teleport for that, while Ray Farkey did not. So the next one of those dragon fights, or the next fight in general, there is the TP advantage for Burning Core. They do have that to work with.
The next one will be the Herald fight, I think, which is spawning soon.
Yeah, and Aatrox is a pretty good teleport flanker in a way that Jace is not bad if you can find a good angle for a shock blast, I suppose. But
If
it's
you
not
can get
exactly...
onto a squishy carry and delete them, yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
You've got options, but it's not the same as an Aatrox coming in who has got so many more options. Has to be can be a lot less careful with where he teleports to in some ways.
You know, really should have talked about this before. It is the poke Varus in the
Oh,
bot
it
lane.
is?
It's Comet, it's into
called it.
lethality, it's the Edge of Night for that first lethality item. Meaning he'll have that spell shield. You know, we should really pay attention to these things.
We should, but we were so distracted by enjoying the Jace in the top lane. It's been good fun.
But it does mean that the consistent damage from Burning Core is somewhat down. Varus does like to, if he is the AD carry build, he does actually scale pretty well up into that second, third item when he has Blade, Rage Blade, and the Hurricane. Whereas with this build, he'll be bursting pretty quickly at the start and the build up to a fight. But if the fight doesn't go very long, and well, if it doesn't have a very good setup around an objective, he loses value as the Canes of Corruption don't connect onto Gadiadu there.
Was a
Back
bit close,
to
yeah.
Distortion.
And
Yeah, he had no cleanse there as well. Would have been a good catch.
yeah, on the other side though, that you were talking about the potential poke here from this Zoe, from this Varus. I mean, if they can set up around an objective and start poking out people like the Hyde, Gadiadu, Jace, they're not tanky, right? So they can hit pretty hard potentially. So there is some room for that.
Well, speaking about hitting hard, this is a full lethality Jace as well. Not going towards the Muramana, going towards the the Ghost Blade into the next lethality item, probably towards something like the Dusk Blade, unless it's something a bit weird like the Sanguine Blade.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
As we see, he really shreds towers with this build.
Yeah, the hypercharge is pretty powerful for Jace on that W. Can do a lot of work with that. And at the very least, will be making Ray Farkey a little bit scared in the side lane for the foreseeable future.
And it does mean that that's a 2-0 tower lead, and that means that Jace gets to play around these really long lanes here. Hoglet taking a bit of burst there, but no threat because there's no follow-up because the bubble didn't land. So with the long lanes in the side lanes for the Jace, he gets to push up, he gets to make sure that Aatrox is held accountable, and will run him down if he isn't with a incorrect position and gets hit by too much of Jace's damage. With the phase rush, does mean he has a lot of room to kill that Aatrox.
Also, with the LeBlanc and the the LeBlanc and the Jace in the side lanes, it kind of stopped that four-man siege happening in the mid lane, right? They want to keep, you imagine the Varus and the Zoe kind of next to each other to throw as much kind of concerted poke out at the same time. But if you're kind of being forced to be accountable by checking up these side lane waves, that becomes a lot harder to continually pull off.
It does, and also if you don't commit 2 people to the side lane, you're missing out on minions.
Ooh, Garrio's going in onto Proud, takes a lot of damage
Burst.
before the door comes up as well. That's pretty big. Might force her back here.
We've seen Gadiadu do some pretty crazy things on the LeBlanc in tight games. This game is actually not particularly tight at the moment in itself. Well, I mean, it is still pretty early days here, but it is a 2k gold lead over to the side of Axis, feeling pretty confident about their chances coming into the mid lane, particularly with the 2 Drakes being stacked up already.
Yeah, and Mountain Drake will be spawning in 30 seconds, and that's going to be another big contest. Uinyan's already here. He's on a ward off to the side. Going to try and take that Edge of Night off you. He does so.
Okay.
That was pretty swiftly done. Once now trading with Hoglet over Vision here, but once comes out on top, not afraid of the Lee Sin over the wall.
Yeah, LeBlanc's just pushed out the bot lane as well, so they have the bot lane priority. Will have the angle to try and flank into this fight. Whoa, no, once just combos in, he might be
in trouble.
in a
He's
bit
going
of
to take
trouble
a lot
here.
of poke here. The Redemption is here to heal him up, though, because Zoe is a thing. And, of course, you get to pick up things like Redemption active.
And they lose the skull.
They do lose the Scuttle there. And remember, Hoglet
Oh,
has
shout
got...
to Yuhi as well.
Yeah, Hoglet has still got the Rift Herald, which he has now just summoned in the bot lane to continue that pressure on the wave that just got pushed out. The Rift Herald got summoned on the wrong side of the wall. This will be a little bit slow. That is a fair amount of poke now onto the Jace with the bubble.
That's going to take down the bot lane turret if left uncontested. Actually, Rayfarky going to answer.
Hyde
takes a lot
all
of
the
damage.
And actually, that could potentially force Axis off this Drake.
Ooh, that's
Kariaru
close.
looking to return the favor onto Rocky, though. Fair amount of poke
Lands.
thrown, but Kariaru does cleanse away fairly swiftly. Doesn't want to deal with the sleepy bubble. Uinyan holding the mid lane wave as that bot lane tier 2
It does
go
survive.
very low.
Okay,
but it
so
still goes
there is a
survive.
level advantage to once here. Does look like the dragon is going to reset. Hyde had to recall, so there's no AD carry available from Axis in this fight. But as we said, the consistent damage from Burning Core a little bit low, even well because they have that poke AD carry. They take the first mountain dragon of the game and do Burning Core.
And well played by Rocky there, especially for chunking out the Misfortune. Put her down to about, what, a fifth of her HP.
That's pretty
very
low.
quickly there. That could have been absolute disaster there for Axis. And in some ways it was, because it stops that Mountain Soul point very early
Let's
on.
list things which are lower than Hyde's HP bar.
I'm with you, not a lot.
Those are things which were lower than Hyde's HP bar. Thank you for joining us on this segment of the LJL Not Quite podcast. So yeah, we're going to go back into this, the
Number
regular
2.
state of the
Plug
game.
number 2.
Plug number 2. We see that Yuhi has picked himself up a Caulfield's Wallhammer and the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, so he's got himself up to 30% CDR, well, 20% CDR will take up to 30% when he hits level 10, because that's the way Transcendence Rune works. He'll be throwing out a nice amount of arrows, but hasn't managed to find a great amount of poke thus far on the Varus pick.
But as soon as they do, that sort of continued state of Hyde's HP bar being lower will be the regular experience of Summoner's Rift and not where we're at right now. So it can be a little bit scary for this Misfortune, especially with the mixed poke coming through. So it's not like you can even build something like just a Hex Drinker to save yourself.
Speaking of scary, Onion's just going to take down this turret here.
Yep.
Has the Duskblade completed as well? A lot of lethality. I mean, Duskblade gives you 21 lethality. Yomis gives you 18. So that's total of, I can do this, 39 lethality. It's a large amount of flat pen available. To the Jesus, everything misses just about from Rocky. I was very scared for Hyde's HP about that.
That was a squeaky butt cheek moment for Hyde. Did avoid all of that damage. And actually, what the line skill shot poke does mean is that Burning Core have a disgusting amount of long range wave clear.
They do, actually, and it means that this this mid lane turret will be slightly harder to take. But the thing about losing both of your side lane turrets before the enemy is that they get the ability to start trying to put down some of the deep vision control, which leads to dives in the mid lane. So if they do let that slip, and then Jace gets shock blast over the wall, LeBlanc starts jumping over the wall herself, you can end up losing members, and then when you lose members, you lose the turret anyway.
Yeah, at the very least, Burning Core are going to throw a little bit more pressure into this mid lane, trying desperately to get their other mid lane to themselves. Gariaru goes forwards, but the Chains of Corruption don't get a lot done there.
Not sure exactly what they were looking for with that. I mean, Zoe being a fun champion there does mean
massive return though from Uinyan.
Yeah. So this is where when these kind of posturing situations go longer, the poke team is not often put into the advantage, but there is a Jace on the other side and LeBlanc poking out a little bit as well. But with the Guardian from the Braum, a lot of that has just been mitigated.
Yeah, and once is getting a little bit tanky here, taking some fairly decent chunks with a smile.
Oh, he's going for it.
Well. Gosh, that was a bad time to choke on something because there's a lot of damage coming towards Hoglet. And that's not in time for a dragon or anything, though, but you can see how oppressive this poke build can be.
It was just 5 men. It's five-man stack in the mid lane from both teams kind of going, yo, I guess I'm here to take damage and deal out some damage myself. Not really fighting over anything, trying to maybe look for an opportunistic pick which would lead into a mid lane turret. Axes choosing at that time not to play towards the side lanes because they think if one person does get significantly chunked, they would lose the mid lane turret. But at the end of that, their structure is still standing for now.
Yeah, but the gold lead is slowly growing. It was about 2,500, a couple minutes ago. It's now 2,500, largely off some CS advantages built in the bot lane, which is up to about 40 at this point.
I think that's because Axe has had the ability to push into the mid
Yes.
lane with the side lane pressure being so high. Like I was saying, you do need to be sat under your turret, even as the Varus and Braum, which are normally quite a safe duo, just because of the priority which the rest of the team have. Rocky pushing out in the top lane and wants there to commit to a 2v2. Some skill shots traded. Nothing big for now, though.
But yeah, it is just this pressure. This Yuhi's Varus is going to start putting out a fair amount of damages up towards his second serrated Dirk build. Probably going to be completing either the Duskblade or the Ghostblade off the...
I'd imagine it'd be the Ghostblade for the extra mobility. Or it should be. If it's not, then I mean...
Got questions.
I got a couple of questions, because Varus isn't the best Duskblade user, not popping in and out of vision too often, and you're not a melee user for the slow auto-attack as well. Gadiadu, seeing if anything can happen with a poke over a wall here, just posturing for now, though.
Yeah, for now, Hoglet is here as well. They don't know that this pink ward's in the bush, but I think they'll be just outside of the radius. They're going forward. They do just miss, and they force out that world ender, but it means that Burning Core get...
mid lane.
They do, and Hyde has to back away, and very smartly so, because he would have gone down very swiftly, and this is just before the Mountain Drake as well.
trading on the top lane, though. He's, he pushed in a top lane wave there. I think the mid lane turret was a bit done for there from Axis. They still have their side lane turrets. They're not feeling too awful about it, but it does kind of suck to lose that at this point in the game. Does mean that they have all their HP bars full, though, for this Dragon contest.
They do, and Uinyan's off to the side looking to force in this mid-wave himself, make sure the Burning Core are still accountable. And Hoglet has started up this Drake one more time. Once is more than around, though. The pink ward is there. Dragon resets, he says, as it actually just goes towards Burning Core. May finally reset. No, still there.
Oh, Chains of Corruption and the bubble misses as well.
That's a big deal.
One of the big tools gone. Could be the opening for Axis to finish off this Dragon without the large CC tool available.
Galio's in behind there. Look at where the LeBlanc is behind. Finds a good flank. Doesn't get to pop the Banshee's Veil, though. And this Drake is still going on. Uinyan puts so much damage in, but it's a massive flag. But Hoglet does claim the Aatrox, who goes down. And suddenly this fight is going very much the way of Axis, and they pick up their third Drake of the game. Well played to get the kill onto this Aatrox, who
the combo there was Rocky.
Massive shock blast with the empowered acceleration game. And Guardian's pushing in the bot lane as well. It's all looking good for Axis here at the minute.
I was clenching a little bit tightly there for Rocky, as there was a flash and a bullet time available from Hyde, but the door also available from Proud would have meant that probably would have gotten out scot-free. They might even be, if they managed to get the mid turret off that, that's such a huge change in pressure here. Yeah, and the Jace is putting out, as you rightfully said, a lot of damage. I'd imagine it'll be going towards the Black Cleaver third in this kind of build, get up towards that 40% CDR, and even more armor reduction.
And you've got this sort of cutesy kind of game with Zoe jumping through portals, and what's through this portal? Not happy fun times, but pain.
It's fun. Oh, this portal leads to the Fire and Death realm. Wow, this is fun.
Yeah, that's GLaDOS somewhere cackles madly in the background as Jace does the will of those particular AI overlords, and we'll continue to see how this game goes. Jace gone towards the Executioner's Calling does help with that matchup into the Aatrox, who is about an item behind at this point. And I know that Jace's items are cheaper, but that's a big deal for the mid-game spike that Jace has gone for.
They are cheaper items, and so that is an Executioner's Calling built up for the Jace. It's very good in the isolated 1v1 versus the Aatrox, who does heal a lot through his continued trades with his Deathbringer stance, and when he gets towards eventually the Death stance as well.
Yes.
Which will be his third item, though, building up towards the Sterix Gauge. Right, actually, I'm not sure. He's got a Caulfield, but he might be building up towards
the... Does Fist go towards Death Stance?
We see a bush hide here.
No, just missed.
That's the mountain geography working against Axis there.
Yeah, that's a bit... I'm going to wonder, because the Nautilus Dredge is actually quite a wide skill shot, so I wonder if that corridor might actually be a little too wide to fit decent hooks through.
Maybe depends on the situation there. I haven't seen enough of the Mountain Rift, really, thus far, particularly with those kind of situations. Either way, the skill shot does land onto the terrain, not onto the champion. We see some resets coming out of Axis. We see that there is a Banshee's Veil picked up from Gadiadu. I really like this onto LeBlancs into these kind of turnaround CC kind of comps. It means you can jump into the Burning Core roster and tank up something like a bubble or the Chains of Corruption. You need to land multiple skill shots before you're able to be locked down as the very slippery, squishy LeBlanc. So Gadiadu, once again, in one of these games on LeBlanc, has the agency to jump forward and make some plays.
Yes, he does, and it also helps like when you're kind of almost doing. LeBlanc is a poke champion, as you kind of talked about in a few other casts, where the way that LeBlanc can play is sort of pop forward, throw out a couple skills, pop back, use it almost as sort of flanking poke. When you're doubling that up with a Jace versus the kind of opposite poke, you're kind of playing a bit of a poke war at the minute.
You are a little bit. There's poke champions on both sides because the LeBlanc and the Jace, and then also the Zoe and the Varus, which are more traditional poke champions in the artillery sense of the word. Arrow's found himself a little bit of an angle here, but he has been spotted out with the timely bubble there from Rocky. Just knocks off the Banshee's Veil, like we were saying, though, so gets out free with that.
Yeah, he does, and Gary...
There's so much ping-pong going on here. There's just trying to take down this mid-out turret from Burning Chorus. It's just not having any of it.
That is the power of both a Braum Shield blocking most of the poke and damage coming at the wave, and then a Zoe and a Varus who's gone lethality, just shredding it with the line skill shots.
I actually wonder if for this next dragon, even if the Dragon Soul isn't picked up by Axis, whether they would trade it for the mid-out turret if they don't get the correct positioning. I think at this point in time, it's such a thorn in their side when they're trying to push in and get more of this vision. That mid-out turret is so important for the Varus and the Zoe to hold, allows them to set up the artillery pieces like I was just saying. But if they do get the Mountain Soul, that is a huge permanent buff for them as well.
But it is earning them a fair amount of gold because they are playing 3 lanes in a way that Burning Core just can't lament. Look at the CS lead now in that bot lane. It's pretty massive. And we're seeing slight ones in the top and just about in the mid, though I won't really call that one as such.
Yeah, so the reset comes out of Varus, comes out of the J4. This actually might lead to the turret itself. Just because
about.
The Varus is recalled. There's no wave clear to save. This turret, rip turret, 0 minutes to 29, had a long and happy life compared to most mid lane turrets there on the outer side of things. Gadiaru once again finding himself on a pink ward behind enemy lines.
He's so slowed. They have no idea what's going on. That's a big shock blast, and Gariaru is so hungry for a pick onto that Varus. He's got Barry, he's got Flash, but if this goes wrong, Rocky's lost the Banshee's Veil as well. Could be a target. Gariaru's still there. Still got items thinking about it.
He hasn't moved in a while.
The sweeper
here.
is trying to try and pick him up, but they still haven't spotted him. They have no idea he's going in now. Gets massive poke onto this LeBlanc, and that's going to possibly earn them a dragon that's live now because this Zoe is pretty low. Has at least got corrupting bots to push her in.
The Banshee's Veil saved a lot of HP there. A lot of HP.
It does mean, however, that Axis start up this dragon. It would be Soul Point, and Gary is once again over a wall. And that's a shock blast to power up. He still has his Banshee's Veil. It's not being taken off him, and he's doing as much work.
Away from the dragon. Oh.
Well played by Hoglet to ensure that there was no chance of a steal, and that is Mountain Soul for the side of Axis.
Chain lands on very far.
And yeah, chains land, and they're desperate to get onto this LeBlanc, who is a complete menace at this point in the game.
I think Gadiaru is just trying to buff up his damage stats at this point. I think maybe something like that. Some great play in the last minute or two from the LeBlanc player on Axis in the mid lane. Only sat at 0-0-1, but make no mistake, this guy's had a large impact on this game. Once caught by an accelerated shock blast. But with the resets coming through, it's actually going to be a mid-inner turret just raised from Axis here.
Yeah, and considering how long that mid-tier 1 stood, it was very swiftly that the mid-tier 2 went down. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it turns out the mid-tiers 1 and 2 do fall in one.
They do indeed. So we see all 3 outer turrets gone from Burning Core. We see the inner turrets gone in the mid and bot lane as well. What this hopefully means is that Axis can start trying to move around and secure some vision now for the later Baron attempt, because they will need a Baron to get through the wave clear, like you were saying. A lot of line wave clear available from Burning Core to really finish off this game. Rocky picking up the blue buff and Hyde picking up the red buff. We'll see what happens in the next couple of minutes as they set up in this next phase of the game.
Misfortune has aggressively gone for a 3rd crit item. Not going to stop off for the Bloodthirster halfway through. Has gone straight damage at this point, so she is very strong.
Do you think that's maybe because of the Mountain Soul? Because often you do see the Bloodthirster picked up by against poke compositions, allows you to regen up. But with the Mountain Soul, maybe you don't need to regen as much.
I mean, I've also seen a lot of people go for the Bloodthirster because they're going towards the Mountain Soul, because the double overshield is massively strong. I remember
what school of thought you're in.
I remember seeing specifically King over from the OCE champion from there playing for Cloud9 Academy, went for the Bloodthirster with the Mountain Soul,
and then have overheal and then
utterly unstoppable. Was that 1v1ing Aatroxes in melee range? It was pretty silly.
Fun champion is Misfortune right now.
Yeah, there
Oh,
is
that's
something
not
to
on Vision here.
Oh, that's
That's
a
well said.
good ward from
a good
Burning
ward.
Core. And it's not like Burning Core out of this game. Let's make no mistake. There
They're
is
only 3k
options.
behind, 3.5k.
And if Rayfar can get his way onto some of these very squishy Axis members, things could go very wrong. And Rocky and Yuhi definitely have damage at this point. There is a lot of lethality. There's a needlessly large rot in Rocky's inventory. If that turns into a death cap anytime soon, we could see Axis members popping very swiftly.
But the problem is that there aren't many champions on Burning Core which really like to chew through a Mountain Soul, right? Mountain Soul is going to be very important in this team composition because they will get so much value out of it. Hoglet jumping away from the Paddle Star was briefly slapped up. Gadiato, even without the teleport, having such map presence this game. Once again, pushing into the top lane, going to be able to tank up that one turret shot with the Mountain Soul there, take down a good chunk of this top lane turret.
Yeah, that's already about a quarter of it gone, and Burning Core have to be aware that as long as Uinyan and Hyde stick in a lane together, there is a lot of wave clear, especially if they can get it around the door of Braum. And actually, Garriaro is with this zoom up, we can see Rayfark and Garriaro trying to find flanks. And the Baron, that one ward is still there, by the way, that spotted them out earlier.
It is indeed.
As they're looking to claim Baron Vision, and it is sort of claimed, but that one ward is keeping them on Vision. The Mountain Soul, though, is doing a lot of work versus this poke.
Gadiato just knocking off the edge of Night Veil there from the Varus. We see Gadiato jumping into Rayfark, knocking down the Sterax.
Bigger cooldown for sure, and bigger chunk in the health bar. This LeBlanc is pretty powerful at this point in the game, especially at level 16. The rank 3 ultimate means it comes up all the time with all that additional AP. Does significant work. Axis thinking about starting this up. They're going to do it two-man.
For now. With the Mountain Soul, they think they can track it up.
Especially with Garriaro, who just burned the cleanse just to get back. They thought they could get on him.
But it keeps pinning them back. It keeps pinning them back. This is going down pretty slowly. No pings coming out from Burning Core right now. I think they're going to get this for free.
No, wait, Once is behind. He's going to try and get over. There's a ward on this blast pan. Just popped now by Garriaro, who's just trying to stop Once from getting anywhere near this Baron. I think it's just going to go. Yeah, it's too late.
Oh, so close!
Once thought he might get it. He's still going to go down. I thought there was no chance of him getting in there. So well played by Once. It's still his death, though.
Actually ridiculously close there. On the edge of my seat as the attempted Baron still goes awry from Burning Core. Does mean that now it's a 6,000 gold lead from Axis. Have that Baron buff, which we were saying that Baxis probably needed to break the base of Burning Core. We'll see if they can set up into all 1-3-1, the death of all wave clear comps, and see if they can crack some of those inhibitors open like an egg.
Indeed. And, this is a 7-kill game at 35 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it's been low in action.
It's actually been action-packed for a 7-kill game, right? There's an Elder up in a minute. We've seen a lot of fights, a lot of posturing. It's not been the bloodiest game like you've been saying, but it's not like we haven't seen attempts towards a lot of kills. It does feel like Axis have been in the driver's seat for the grand majority of it, with Gadiato jumping forward, and then Burning Core being pinned back by his aggressive posturing.
Yeah, and I kind of thought maybe Axis had thrown away a fantastic first blood early start to the game when Once picked up the 2 kills, but ever after, it feels like Axis have played this game fairly well outside of the one Mountain Drake going to the side of Burning Core.
Okay, so we see a beautiful 1-3-1 coming out here. Just like the textbook says, Gadiato getting some autos, pinging forwards and backwards, using the cannon minion to get that bot lane inhibitor open and exposed to the opener as Yunyan is up versus Rayfarki in the top lane as well. This is very much like poetry in motion as another inhibitor turret is going to go down as well. This is an absolute death grip from Axis.
And Poke suffers so much more against Baron minions, just can't get through all the resists as easily, especially when you are going for flat pen builds like the Varus has done. And it just means that that's another 2 inhibitors down. And this is from a region where we thought that they couldn't 1-3-1. The growth in the region to be able to pull off this kind of thing is massive.
Go back and watch episode 2 and episode 3 of our podcast. That's another plug for us. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Or try and engage.
Oh, it's good. There's a Cataclysm, but it's a Cataclysm to Doom. The knock-up onto the Aatrox mid-Darkin Blade. Yuhi takes a lot of poke. Uinyan, massive bullet time. Hasn't been needed much this game because the poke's been doing all the work. But late in, that's going to be Axis with the win at 36 minutes 50.
And that's all she wrote as Axis do go 1-1 for this week. Sighs of relief from Corporal and the size of Axis. It's all she wrote, and the last word that was written was in beautiful calligraphy as that 1-3-1 came into a really beautiful end to that game. Coming back to our pseudo-analyst desk, Mass Swan, what are your opinions on that game?
Well done, Axis. That was a very slow win, but a very well played win. They never really tried to give Burning Core much of an edge. It always felt like Axis was somewhat controlling the pace of the game. Burning Core would definitely look for opportunities, but I mean, Axis just really focus the Dragons, as we've said before. They're one of the teams in this league that really likes to get the Dragon. They focus heavily on the Dragon. Hoglet did an amazing kick to basically zone out part of Burning Core.
That Dragon Soul fight was good from him.
It was so good. And obviously, Gereado was just zoning out the whole team with the LeBlanc and just was not allowing a single player of the team to come anywhere near from Burning Core. Basically, even not getting a kill, chunking the whole team so low. It was just so well played. The whole team of Axis showed up for that game. They were sad that they didn't get that first win. And then they fought back and said, no, actually, we're going to take this win. We want it. Screw you. Let me get it. And they did. And it took them. And it was so well played. And that Baron, that secret Baron, was so well.
Well, that's what Vision Control affords you, right?
It does. And it was also just like it was an exercise in frustration for the side of Burning Core, where they were trying to gather their pieces of their poke composition together with the door in front of them to try and shove their way through mid lane, find some stuff going on. But every time they did, they'd find a LeBlanc already at their inner turrets. They'd find a Jace already at their inner turrets, and then have to go and answer it. And the pieces of the ultimate combination would be broken apart, and that kind of eventually led to them kind of in a bit of a bad space.
Now, there is something that is interesting. I'm not sure if you guys are still watching the game at the moment.
Not right.
We have the post-game breakdown showing the damage graphs. It's rather telling, I think, how that game truly went. And, like, from the side of Burning Core. Axis, we had Unyan dealing the most amount of damage that game with 20,000 damage from
That's
this
what happens when you
Jace.
wail on a tank during laning phase and then come into a really strong poke build.
Oh, absolutely.
Well played from him, man.
Gereado finishing in second place on 13k, and Hyde, while it wasn't the less amount of damage than the side of two members of Burning Core, still 10k damage on this Misfortune, so huge. But I think the telling part is Rayfarki's damage and Wance's damage. Rayfarki only having 3k damage. That's basically Jace's health bar.
What that means is that you can tell just from looking at the stats of that game, you don't need to watch the game, that basically Burning Core never found the fights they wanted. They had a poke composition, so yes, there is something to be said about sitting back.
Yep.
But when you have the Virus, the Chains of Corruption, when you have a Jarvan going into the engage as well, like you should be able to find some fights at some points that game. There was never really a cataclysmic 5v5, and by the time like the game ended, like obviously Aatrox had not managed to do much damage, like you were saying.
Yeah, and you kind of have to hope, right, that Jarvan going for a Flash, Flag and Drag Cataclysm sets up a nice barrel for all the line skill shots and the piercing arrows and the paddle stars of Zoe and Varus to come through and delete someone. That's the idea, right? You put them in a barrel and make sure they can't escape the poke, and it didn't happen. And the Aatrox never got into a fight either.
Very true. Well, hopefully Rayfarki and the team can recompose themselves for their second game that will be coming up later in the day for us. It will be our final game of the day. But right after this break, we are going to see Rascal Jester see if they can go for that 2-0 and try and really get themselves in a nice spot going into our final week, week 7. Or is it V3, who are our only team who haven't played for this week, who are going to be trying to see if they can break into those upper echelons of the table? We'll find out right after this break. Thank you so much for watching.